in terms of the thematic report. So I might start off, we might just work our way this way around the table, from Canada to Colombia to Sweden to Peru and Australia, and then we'll have a break. Good afternoon for those on the line. My name is Patrick Watson. I'm a manager in the Policy, Research and Legislative Initiatives Directorate at Indigenous and Northern Affairs Canada. And I'm pleased to report on what the Canadian delegation was able to produce at this time. So under key policy topics that we'd like to focus on, as well as additional topics, come for the following. Regional governance structures that reflect prior and informed consent that provides capacity to nations. Building Indigenous institutions to support capacity of Indigenous nations to make informed decisions. How to better engage Indigenous businesses throughout the whole value chain. Economic development as a driver to reconstitute nations. Regional economic development as a means of facilitating relationships with municipalities, so most local governments. How to support greater Indigenous capacity to deliver in-nation services. And individual Indigenous-owned businesses, in comparison to Indigenous community-owned businesses, what are success rates, growth rates, on-reserve benefits and externalities, as well as off-reserve benefits and externalities. I should ask Ms. Madabili if she wished to add anything.
Just on the work with the municipalities, I think we were just talking about the regional benefits to and when First Nation economies are strong, usually the local townships and the whole region benefits. So I think it's more so than just the municipalities, it's the region.
Was there anything else on that, Patrick, or was that? That's it for now. Oh, good. And Colombia.
El interés de Colombia es en el ámbito eminentemente rural. El concepto de región para nosotros está asociado a la forma que está organizado el ordenamiento territorial del país, que partimos en el caso de los indígenas de los resguardos con un escenario hacia territorios indígenas, como entidad territorial, los municipios y los departamentos. Las comunidades que estarían vinculadas al proyecto serían las comunidades del medio río Caquetá, de donde son originarios los dos compañeros que me acompañan. Los análisis particulares, estas zonas, en general, los territorios indígenas en Colombia, de acuerdo al último Censo Nacional Agropecuario, tienen una vocación de suelo de bosques. Ese es, digamos, como uno de los grandes capitales que tenemos. Y en el caso específico de esta zona, tenemos casi 2 millones de hectáreas en territorios indígenas en bosques. Por lo tanto, digamos, el buen uso y el mejor manejo de los recursos ambientales, desde el pago por servicios ambientales, el uso del aprovechamiento sostenible del bosque sería uno de las líneas, digamos, más importantes en términos de generación de recursos y promoción del desarrollo económico. En términos de los tópicos claves de política, hay un tema que no había mencionado antes, pero que no por eso es menos importante, que es el tema del acceso a servicios financieros. En el caso de los territorios indígenas, si bien tienen una propiedad colectiva sobre su territorio, ya están establecidos como prenda de garantía a la hora de solicitar servicios financieros, y ese es, digamos, un cuello de botella grande que presentan. Y lo otro, como lo mencionaba esta mañana, es todo el tema de la articulación entre el ordenamiento y la planeación en los diferentes niveles territoriales, desde los territorios hasta su articulación con lo municipal y lo departamental. y claramente el tema de los sistemas de información con pertinencia étnica y también de acuerdo a los niveles territoriales, incluidos como nivel territorial los territorios indígenas. No solo la existencia de los sistemas de información, sino también el acceso y uso de esa información que pueden hacer las mismas comunidades indígenas para planear y promover su desarrollo propio. Y en el tema de las instituciones y gobernanza multinivel, pues todos los niveles de gobierno, digamos, necesitamos fortalecimiento y generar capacidades, pero en particular hoy tienen un gran reto los mismos pueblos indígenas en cada uno de los territorios. Por lo tanto, allí encontramos, digamos, una necesidad de transferir capacidades para que puedan asumir la gestión de su desarrollo. Nada más por ahora.
Thank you very much. Sweden. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I don't know if I understood the questions correct, but I will try to do my best. What is really needed in a time of change and building on when we have the current situation that is built upon many years of misunderstanding is a border crossing, not only crossing the borders of the state, but also crossing the borders that every individual creates for himself or herself. We need to have a different society in the north that are not so worried about the development or about their own safety and well-being. We need to have this on unfragmentized land, territories that are not in large scale hit by the fragmentation that are in contradiction with the semi-parliament living environmental program. We should be focusing on establishing regions in Europe. That was one of the topics prior to the Swedish membership election, advising election to membership in the European Union in 1995, that it would be possible to create a region within Europe, not destroying the current borders, not tearing loose from the countries, but establishing regions that would make, among others, indigenous peoples benefit of that. And now is it time that OECD and others are focusing on establishing region. Social responsibility from the actors on the market. It cannot be possible to say, but we cannot deal with human rights. Someone else has to do that, but it's not our duties. But it is the duties of large companies to have policies when it comes to human rights, when it comes to indigenous peoples, and it is not any particularly strange phenomenon. It is also locally produced and locally involvement both of indigenous and non-indigenous, since it is not any strange coincidence that indigenous can be domesticated to the dominating society and vice versa. It is not a threat for Finnish or Sami speaking to learn from each other's culture, or also from the Swedish culture. We should also have some development when it comes to indigenous passport, indigenous states official, and maybe in the end some police that are indigenous. This was a brief summary. Thank you. Thank you. Paul?
Okay. I was discussing with myself and I couldn't agree with myself. So, but I have some things that I can mention, and I think I agree with some of Canada and Colombia says, but I would like any particular economic analysis you would like to focus on, market opportunities and potential value of indigenous assets in the regions, successful indigenous business, that might be in the regions, or value change involving indigenous people that can be learned how to they're working. The results and economic results of different projects and programs of governments and donors target indigenous people's economic development and biodiversity and natural resource conservation in the areas, and keep policy topics. Well, I think I should focus on sectors, forest policies, because that's one of our main problems in the Amazon region. And then probably the communities the regions we're going to select are going to focus on the Amazon because of the difficulties and isolation there. Forest and mining, gold mining especially, because we have also a problem there. How this policy can work to improve indigenous well-being and give them opportunities to alternatives to this to benefit from legal and formal activities related to forest products and mining, and topics related to institutions and multi-level governance. Kind of the same that other countries says, the relation between local, regional, and development plans, and how they can be linked with indigenous owned plans and management of natural resources, and also link it to budget. The analysis of the tax revenue, the canon from Peru for mining, how this work can be used in the region, how it can benefit indigenous people. There's a problem there that the project can look and probably can with some recommendations. And how to effectively link indigenous governance based on the customary laws to local and regional governance. And that's all for now.
Yeah. Unlike Peru, I had a really good conversation, and I was in total agreement. For me, it was looking at the indigenous communities to be engaged in this type of project. Of course, Australia is such a large place. Is looking at the remote areas plus the regional and coastal areas. They're looking at the Yungu and the Arnhem Land, Cape York in the north, and the east, and Kimberley's in the northwest, the APY lands in the south, and the Bundjalung north coast of New South Wales. So you get a good mixture of different groups of people and different societies and indigenous groups to work with. Any particular economic analyst you'd like to focus on? Well, of course, it's about governance, because I am a believer, and I agree with the Canadian delegation. It's about ensuring that the First Nations are in charge and have control of that, and they're operating in that, and the governance systems are working properly. You're looking at economic stimulus, and coming off that, and looking at about how you do investment setting within their areas. Business development, we need to have businesses that are commercial, profitable and sustainable into the future, that produce the jobs for the people living in those communities. We also look at need to do some auditing and that around skills and education within those communities to see where some of the gaps are and where things need to be developed. There's looking also at regulatory reform, so the regulations, the legislation is not tying the indigenous groups up in knots and not putting them to the side and on the fringe. Key policies topics, I said, things that we like to look at, as repeating myself again, a business and economic development strategy to develop socio-economic, to develop the standing of socio-economic standing of individuals in the community. Education and skill training to develop the capacity of the community and the job and business ready, regulatory reform to develop the environment for investment and economic stimulus, and also Indigenous governance, capacity building, the school to higher education, so looking at how we retain kids in school, getting them to higher education, looking for professions, businesses, studies and other areas. We need skill development because not everyone's going to go into and need to go into university, so looking at trades and other areas and developing those. In fact, I've got two sons who did a trade and earn more money than me the past. We have also looking at how do we develop entrepreneurship and get things operating within communities where they can see opportunities, where they can do things. You know, I've been across in the last 12 months, probably 52 Indigenous communities across Australia, and I haven't seen one where you can't develop an economy and get businesses operating. The other one, of course, is going back to government's training to ensure that Indigenous governance, Indigenous groups are actually in control of this area, and it's community economic initiatives, isn't it? Yes, thank you.
Thanks a lot. Look, I mean, everyone's coming from it, obviously, from different points of view, different national context, but you can see, at least for me, what I hear is, there's two themes coming out. One is about business, Indigenous business. It's about entrepreneurship. It's about supporting traditional livelihoods. It's about how businesses can participate in value chains, and then what are the things that enable that to happen? So you need access to finance. You need to perhaps change some of the regulatory environment. You need to have access to skills as well. So I think that's certainly one theme that I heard, and then the other is around governance, is around how decisions are made by and for Indigenous communities about economic development, and again the things that need to be in place to empower them to make those decisions, and execute those decisions. So that's about capacity. It's about having the right data and information, and making sure that the organisations that represent them or act on the behalf of Indigenous communities are integrated with other governance structures in that, and that can be within the region. It can be local municipalities. It can be regional governments. It can be national governments, and as Stefan said, it can be also across borders as well, which is I did some work in the north of Sweden and Norway, and that's a big issue across a number of different areas, is how you help facilitate cross-border movements, because the livelihoods that your people are involved in were there before the national borders, so they work across them. So I think that if you have different regulatory frameworks or different barriers, it can inhibit that trade and that movement of goods and services as well. So I think to me that the two things that I heard were those around the business and the governance as well, which I think provides us good guidance for this report. Now, we've taken up a lot of time this afternoon, which is good. I think that we've heard a lot. So I think we can have a break after this before we go on our tour to Old Quebec, but I don't know if anyone had other observations they wanted to make.
Yeah, sorry, I missed Susan Washington, so I missed Patrick's report. I think there's something related to governance and business development in the Canadian context I think is worthy of a line of inquiry, and that is the difference between individual entrepreneurs and collectively owned, band-owned businesses. We seem to, as a white non-Indigenous person, there's a tendency to romanticize the notion that business development from an Indigenous perspective is always collective. And I'm not pro or anti-capitalist, but there are just as many, and so there should be, business people who are looking to achieve economic self-sufficiency, not necessarily in the context of the community. So banned corporations and benefits to banned corporations in the case of First Nation bands is a very different economic equation than an individual who is a very successful entrepreneur, who may not be living on reserve, who may be living off the reserve, but yeah, so I've talked about this with Don. It's a very sensitive thing, and they're very, the politics on reserve about that in Canada is super sensitive. Is a banned corporation going to back an individual entrepreneur, even if they're a member, versus only advocating for their own, for the collective corporations?
Okay. We're also going to talk about methods. We'll do that tomorrow morning. I'm not going to put you to sleep with a discussion about methods, but also that methods is very important because obviously it enables us to gather the information which will help us do this analysis and make good recommendations. So we'll just leave it there. I think for us, we have more clarity now about our work and the direction within which we'll head. In a sense, the country inputs are the building blocks for this project. So what we will do over the next sort of 6 to 8 weeks is to work with each of you on those building blocks. And then from that, we can then execute this project in 2018. So I'd like to thank you all for your contribution. Sorry? We have, I think, what time do we convene to meet Marie Chantal again?
5:30.
5:30.
And she asked me to pass along that people should wear comfortable shoes.
Yes, I forgot that, yes. So we're going to meet at 5:30 out the front for the dinner excursion. And if you could also just give me a copy of that information that you just wrote down as well, and we'll take that on board in terms of next steps on the project. So thank you.
Thank you.